This video is sponsored by my favorite website creator, Squarespace, the best place to go when you want to get a domain or create a gorgeous website or an online store. Okay, I shouldn't lie, I actually read 99 books last year, not 100, but I'm rounding up. So what have I learned by this experiment? Have I become an expert reader by now? And what are my favorite books of the year? So I've never read this much in a year before. 80 books was my previous personal record, and that was 2019. And I know lots of people saying that they haven't been able to concentrate on reading last year because of higher anxiety levels, making it hard to concentrate. And although I totally agree, it has been harder to focus on a text, and I've often had to reread a page or put a book down if it's too complicated. Like remembering names, God, I'm useless at that even on the best of days. How has your reading been lately? Have you managed to concentrate, or have you reached for Netflix binging instead? Let's start with the stats. What exactly have I been reading? 99 books, 21 of them audiobooks, the rest were mostly ebooks plus a few printed ones. 87 books were novels, and out of the 12 non-fiction books, 2 were author memoirs, and the remaining 10 books were about writing, like craft and storytelling books. I'm never really into non-fiction, it's not something that I read for pleasure. I'm currently reading 12 books, some of them more easily digested, some more hardcore. I usually have about 10 to 15 books on rotation, so I always have something that catches my fancy, no matter which mood I'm in. I've also last year given up on 9 books midway. That's much more than a normal year for me, but I think this number will only go up from now on, because this is one of the first lessons that I've learned by this 100-book experiment. There are such a gigantic number of books out there I want to read. There is no way in hell I have time in my life to read all of them. So the culling process needs to be brutal. If I'm not invested in the story, say after 25%, it has to go. I used to be much more dutiful and feel like I owed it to a book to finish it if I started it, but I'm getting more and more brutal with age. What about you? Do you stop reading books if you're not feeling them? Also, if you want me to make more book or movie themed videos, do give me a thumbs up. I love it if you do. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new around here. Okay, 2019, more than half of my 80 books were audio. By 2020, I didn't go to the gym as much, obviously, and for some reason when cooking or going on walks, I've been reaching for podcasts instead of audiobooks. So only 20% of last year's bunch have been audio. I think it's also because I never listen to the audiobook if it's a novel I think will have some language flair. This is also something I know about my own reading. Good quality books written with care and detail for the word, I need to see the sentence and be able to reread a good sentence or paragraph to really savor it. In my opinion, we get so much more out of a book if we just slow down. I mean, if you're interested in language, of course, and not just the story. And you can't slow down or savor a sentence when doing audio. So I usually only listen to an audiobook if it's a fast-paced, commercial, fun ride, you know? So, what type of novels have I been reaching for? Well, first half of 2020, I read a lot of thrillers because, as a lot of you guys know already, I'm a fiction writer myself, and I have written one thriller and was planning to, continue. So I read a lot of thrillers as research. Here's another thing that I learned last year though. I realized that I was only reading these thrillers as research. Whenever reading for pleasure, I will reach for a modern classic or a contemporary novel. So you know what? Reading this many books has made me realize that thrillers and crime, it isn't my preferred genre, and it never really was. So sometime halfway through the year, I stopped with the thrillers and have since read a whole lot of contemporary literary fiction. Now, a way of looking at fiction which is a bit old school is seeing it as a range from commercial to upmarket to literary. Commercial being the most mainstream, easy to digest, fast-paced, easy reads, and literary being more experimental and with a lot of care to the language and a bit more demanding on the reader, with upmarket somewhere in the middle, like well-written books that still appeal to a wide audience. Literary novels win awards and get reviewed in magazines, while commercial novels sell a lot of copies. Upmarket fiction, they try to do a bit of both, sell decent numbers and get a few reviews in there. So say like Eleanor Oliphant, for example, or a well-written thriller like Susie Steiner's books, I'd call them upmarket. So the contemporary novels I've reached for in the second half of the year have been a healthy mix of literary and upmarket. I haven't read as many modern classics as I would have liked. That's my favorite type of book to read and has always been, so contemporary novels and before that thrillers have definitely taken up the majority of my book nights last year. I wish I could go for more of the modern classics. I will do that this year. I read for a number of reasons, for entertainment and as research and to learn about the world, but maybe more than anything, I realized that I read as my preferred mode of meditation. Classic meditation isn't really my thing because if I go into this mental silence, my brain has way too much space to start jumping around and overthink things. Novels, however, they occupy my brain, but in a calm, beautiful way so that I can get totally absorbed and disappear into another world. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I'm too frantic to concentrate, but often I just get this razor focus and I can feel my body relax and get heavy and completely at ease. I don't really get away from any other type of content. Do you? Another thing I've learned from last year's heavy reading is a sad lesson, and that is that the more books you read, the less you like them. When I clock as many reading hours as I did last year, it's hard to find something that really grabs you. Books start sounding like each other and you start realizing trends and similarities and you invest less in the main characters. Kind of like when you watch a lot of reality TV and you realize they're all following the same exact format and you start getting bored by the setup. To be fair, this might not only have to do with reading a lot, it's probably due to last year being a bit of, demoralizing in general. I hope this is the case and I'll be more gripped by what I read this year. This has also taught me that I shouldn't go so hard at one genre and reading mostly contemporary. I noticed that as soon as I start mixing in a bit of Austen, a Virginia Woolf essay, some Chekhov or Marguerite Duras, I'm completely fine again. A more ethical decision this year, I've realized it's totally possible to get off the Kindle train. I no longer support Amazon by buying my books to Kindle. I use ebooks.com and read on my tablet instead. And if I want a paper book, I've started supporting bookshop.org. Have you heard about them? I've talked about them before. It's a new competitor to Amazon who support indie bookshops to try to give an ethical alternative to Amazon and their way of completely hollowing the book industry. As of now, it doesn't seem like they sell ebooks on bookshop.org, at least not in the UK, but hopefully they will start soon because I would so be on that. I'm not sponsored, by the way, this is just a little tip. 2020 was the year of short stories for me. This is a cool lesson I've learned. Reading a short story is like a spicy little taste of a new author. Before investing in a full novel, I love getting a taste of the writing style through a short story. It's kind of like a box of chocolate pralines. You get many small bites of different new flavors to try. Also, short stories are often so experimental and just pure fun because they don't have to work as a full-length book. So you get some really wonderfully weird ones. I mean, have you read Jeanette Gleason's The Lexicon of Babies? So cool. I've also learned a lot about what style I like to read, no matter the genre. Here goes. I want books to be short, with short sentences, short paragraphs, and short chapters. Minimalist even in my reading, not gonna lie. Why novels, you ask? Why almost no non-fiction? I find this interesting and I would love it if someone did a big-ass study on this. How much and exactly what you learn about the world if you're a fiction versus a non-fiction reader. The 20 non-fiction books I've read have all been about writing, so of course I've learned a lot about the craft of storytelling and editing, but to be honest, I've probably learned more about writing from the 18 novels I read than from these 20 craftsmanship non-fiction books. When reading fiction, you absorb storytelling by osmosis, just like you learn how to be a YouTuber by watching YouTube videos or a filmmaker by watching movies. You can't learn that from a school or a non-fiction book. You have to be a consumer of storytelling to be a good storyteller. That's my conviction, 100%. But what about all the other stuff you can learn about the world from fiction or non-fiction? Reading novels last year, I've learned about Tudor England, current-day Tokyo, about systematic racism, about the inner workings of hospitals and police work in the 60s. I've been to Nigeria and Vietnam and Greece and Iceland. I'm sure I would know more hard facts and figures if I read more non-fiction. But if you ask me, facts and figures are easily forgotten. But reading about someone's life from inside their own mind, even if it's a fictional character, that world and that place and that human destiny stays with you forever, if it's a well-written book, of course, because it hits us in our empathy. It becomes a part of how we from now on interpret and understand the world. I can read numbers on racism all day long, but experiencing it through a story told in someone's own words, that leaves a whole other type of mark on you. Okay, finally, here's my top list in alphabetical order of the books that I have given either a 5-star or a 4.5-star rating last year. Quite a few of them, right? Have you read any of them? Now, I want you to give me your top read from last year. If you can only choose one book, which one would take the #1 spot? For me, it will probably be Normal People. I'll of course leave links to stuff in the description if you want to take a look, and if you have a favorite ethical way of buying books that I haven't mentioned, please share with the group. By the way, for audiobooks, I use Storytel, not Audible. Much better service, plus it again means I don't have to give Amazon my money. Anyway, I very much look forward to hearing about your favorite reading experiences last year in the comments, and be a doll, give me a little thumb up if you enjoyed this video. So excited for a new reading year to begin, hope you guys are too. Do you want to create a beautiful site, maybe start your own book review blog? If so, you should definitely do it with Squarespace. They have great blogging tools to share your stories, photos and videos to make it easy to reach your audience. You can also auto-post your content to Twitter, Facebook or Tumblr and simply schedule your posts for them to be properly tagged and the descriptions and titles will show up correctly. You can of course add your social media accounts to your site so that it's easy for your readers to find you everywhere. Squarespace also have great traffic analytics so that you can see how many people are visiting your site, how long they're staying for, where they're coming from and what they're interested in, like books, veganism or maybe fashion for example. So what are you waiting for? Go get your free trial today at squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/jennymustard to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. See you next week guys. Puss puss and hej då!
Let's try QAnon. And how do you feel about 5G giving you coronavirus?
Oh my god. Do you want to start talking about pedophile rings? Pizza?
Pizzagate.